Morningstar Chief Executive Joe Mansueto recently visited the Australian business, which is around 7% of the company's total worldwide. His visit sparked rumours of more acquisitions. Thanks for joining us today, Joe.
Delighted to be here.
So, Joe, have you come to Australia on a shopping spree?
No, this is a regular scheduled visit, just as a regular update on our Australian business. As you mentioned, Australia is about 7% of our overall revenues. So it's good to come down here and meet with some clients, see what they think of our services, do a lot of internal reviews of our operations. On the other hand, if opportunities pop up, I think we're very interested in learning more.
Joe, you've come to Australia at a good time for us. Job ads are up, interest rates are up, and the Australian dollar has appreciated about 30% to your dollar. What are the pros and cons you see of the appreciating Australian dollar?
Yes, the rise in the Australian dollar has been really dramatic. So from a couple of perspectives, I could take a look at it. One is from a global macro perspective. It certainly makes Australians wealthier in the world. As the dollar has risen, the relative wealth of Australia has increased. If you look at it from a Morningstar perspective, Australia is about 7% of our revenues, as we mentioned, so the rise in the Australian dollar makes those revenues a larger part of our overall business and the profits from this operation larger, which is a good thing. The negative is that it's only 7% of our revenues, and so we'd love to see that grow.
Our funds management industry has suffered greatly, but it's now seeing positive inflows. How does this compare to the US?
If you look around the world, the United States included, the downturn in the markets over the past couple of years had a similar effect countries around the world. So what we've seen in the US, which again is consistent with what we've seen in other countries, is that the downturn has really shifted the industry from going from net inflows to net outflows, especially with equity-related funds. There's been a real shift over the past couple of years, taking money out of equity into much more conservative investments like fixed income and cash. And so that is starting to change. So now the industry, like Australia, is moving back to net inflows as the markets come up.
Morningstar's been around since the mid-80s, and during that time you've seen several downturns. How have they differed, and how has Morningstar learned to cope?
Every downturn has been its own story. So in my experience, in 1987 was the first dramatic downturn that I saw in my career. But it was very short. It was for a few months, October 1987. But then the market ended up positive for the year. So it was very contained, very short. In 2000, when the dot-com bubble burst, that was the next downturn. And that was really confined to one sector, technology. A lot of run-of-the-mill manufacturing firms really weren't affected. This downturn was much different, much broader, much more systematic across the economy. It had to do with the restriction of credit, which affects nearly all businesses. So much more prolonged, much more widespread, and much deeper.
You're looking at the downturns in hindsight. When you were in the middle of them, did they really feel different from one another?
Yeah, much more so. That this was very different. This was certainly the most severe downturn since the Depression in the 1930s. So the others were much shorter in duration and much more confined. This was much broader, much deeper. We'd never before really questioned the viability of our basic financial institutions. The whole credit infrastructure came under severe stress. There was a time where in many countries the commercial paper market basically shut down. Credit really was not available. So even blue chip companies like General Electric in the United States for a short period of time could not get credit. We'd really not seen a situation like that ever before. So it was really very different than the other downturns.
During the first couple of downturns, Morningstar wasn't a listed company. Have the decisions that you've had to make regarding the company had to change since the company became public?
No, we've been a listed company for about 4.5 years now. And one of the things that we did when we listed is we took great pains to explain to investors that we were going to continue to run the company as we've always run it for the long term, that we weren't going to change our stripes and all of a sudden worry about quarterly earnings and meeting Wall Street expectations. But it was to build value for the long term. So we set those expectations up front, and we've run the business that way for the past 25 years, and going public really did not change that.
Morningstar has a presence in several different markets, including the UK, Canada, France, and Italy. What leads you to consider different markets?
So that's right. We're in about 20 countries around the world, and our philosophy is pretty much to follow the assets. So what we do is we look at the size of the fund markets around the world, and we want to have a presence where there's a significant mutual fund market as well as a significant equity market. So if you look at the top 15 fund markets, there's only one country, Brazil, where we don't have a presence today. And we'd like to change that over the coming year. We're working hard to do that. But pretty much wherever the assets are, you'll find Morningstar there.
Other than increasing their wealth and saving for the future, what are common traits that you see in investors throughout the world?
Yeah, we see a lot of commonality around the world. I mean, the local situation may be different in a given country, but investors pretty much want to find the best investment managers. They want to diligence them to make sure they're reputable and sound. And then they want to construct portfolios that make sense to reach a financial goal, and then to do the ongoing monitoring of those investments. So those basic fundamental needs that really exist around the world, the implementation may be different in a given country, but I think the basic needs are pretty much the same.
Thanks for your time today, Joe.
Thank you.